I just think we're at the point now where it's just getting ridiculous and we can't have a sensible conversation about penalties, because what's happening is the more and more borderline penalties that get given, the more and more fans are now literally appealing for every single bit of contact in the box to be a penalty. And it just feels to me like, do you know what it feels like? It feels quite similar to hearing people talk about social matters and politics on Twitter, where people are just so extreme on their views, and you get the same people. So honestly, you're getting the same people that are saying that Swansea shouldn't have had any penalties, then for exactly equivalent borderline decisions are now saying that everything should be a penalty. And it's starting to become a ridiculous debate now, because there's just no credibility to it, because we can't have it both ways. We can't have there's too many penalties and they're too soft, and then at the same time have the same fans. And I'm not accusing Nick or anyone who's commented on this for doing it. We can't then have the same fans where literally any leg touching a leg, any arm touching another player, any collision in the box, people are just wanting penalties for everything now. And if that's the case, I'm sorry, they need to shut up when soft penalties are given, because you can't. Do you know what I mean? You can't ask for the earth and then complain when someone else gets given the earth. That's what's happening now, and we're at the point now. And I suppose referees are a little bit to blame because there's so many soft penalties, especially in the Championship. We've got this issue where it feels like referees in the Championship are trying to give the equivalent of penalties that get given by VAR in the Premier League. And then you get fans jumping on top of it, where every pull and push, you know, I went on Twitter last night, every pull and push now is 1,000 tweets. And it's not that borderline decision could have been a penalty. It's, oh, this was a definite penalty. I am outraged. This is awful, awful, terrible stuff. And then you do get Sky, bless them, with their brilliant 8K HD cameras showing 8 super slow-mo replays of every little touch in the box. And it's got ridiculous now. It really, really has got ridiculous. Now, I think people need to have a look at what they're saying. I try my absolute utmost to call every single one, hopefully as accurately as I can, as it pertains to the, the state of play in 2021 and what I actually feel a penalty should be. I know that those two things are literally not the laws of the game, but it just feels silly now. It feels very, very silly. And it feels like, and honestly, doing these streams, someone who's commentating on it, I know at any point during a watch along, there's going to be a borderline contact in the penalty box. And I now know that there's going to be 20 comments saying that it should be a penalty, because this is where we've got to now in VAR world, where every contact and everything. So I think, and this is always a good place to start with this, I think we need to get to a point. I must just say, Nick, I'm totally not picking on you at all. I'm totally not picking on you. I'm really, really not. I'm just saying a wider sort of broader point. If you feel, I do apologise, Nick. You just literally asked about. I'm just having a rant about penalties in general, because this is where we are now, and this is how I feel as someone commentating on this. That we're now at a point where the standard for a penalty is dropped so low that every fan, every TV pundit is saying everything's a penalty. And you know what it looks like. If I bump into you in the supermarket, and just tap you, and you run that in super, super, super slow motion, you'll be able to make it look like something that it wasn't. And I just think it's getting silly now. And I think the debate is silly as well, where we're having something that everyone knows is borderline. And people then, we know people exaggerate to make their point, but then all of a sudden it's a stonewall penalty and it's a disgrace and referees are frauds and even worse things. And it's just not a conversation that's worthwhile even having if we can't say, look, these are borderline decisions and the standard for penalties is dropping way, way down. That needs to be our starting point. Anyway, that was a huge, long rant about penalties. Apologies, Nick. I understand stuff. Honestly, Nick was just asking about the decision. My big response was nothing. I know Nick's a good guy, but you know, this is where we've got to. Chris said, that said, Ben, it was a foul on Niambe. Look, whether it was or wasn't a foul on Niambe, fine, whatever. As long as we can admit these are borderline decisions that people are now all, you know, piling in on, and we get this craziness. Calm down, Ben. Nick unwittingly dislodged the cap of a volcano. But do you guys agree with me? Do you guys agree with me that we've got to a point now, and I'm not accusing any one person or one group of fans of doing it. We have a point now where we have the same people who are outraged about soft decisions given against their team. The same people are outraged at comparably soft decisions not being given for their team. And that's where the debate becomes not credible at all for me. That's disingenuous. That is intellectually dishonest. And we need to have a credible debate. Fans need to stand up and say, when they get a soft penalty, that was a soft penalty. Even that was a 2021 penalty. And then when they don't get a decision, I don't want to hear, oh, blatant penalty, rah, 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 stonewall penalty. I want to hear, okay, that was borderline, but in 2021, we see them given. Then we can have a reasonable debate. But yeah, woof. Sorry. Calm down. You won't bang into somebody in the supermarket, Tim. Actually, I'm very grumpy in the supermarket when someone comes within 2 meters of me. Sorry, that was a big rant. I'll clip that and put it up later. But I'm trying to be reasonable about this, and I try to be reasonable about. I can't talk now. I've ranted so much. I try to be reasonable about all these penalty calls, and it's getting very, very hard when someone sneezes on someone and like half of Twitter, literally 150 comments. That's a blatant penalty, isn't it? Deary me. That's probably the issue, Chris, isn't it? I know you say leave your bias at the door, but you'll never get there with 95%. And I understand that, Chris. I do understand people's passion, but people need to understand that if their overriding motivation for their views is passion for their team, they need to understand that they're not going to be able to be involved in a credible conversation where they can't say, okay, I understand it's for my team and I'm a bit vexed about everything else. So there we go. Can you imagine VAR in the Championship and we not only have penalty shouts, but at the handball, well, there's a whole another Pandora's SHIT box, isn't there, Ricky? Even if it was my team, I wouldn't call for a soft penalty because I don't want to see it in the game. I think it's horrible. There's too many penalties, isn't it? Too many. And all I want is for the debate to be sensible. And let's be honest, here is a place where it's pretty damn sensible, I have to say. I try and not regulate it because I believe everybody who comes in this chat has a right to an opinion. Like Chris and I respect Chris greatly, and hopefully he does me. We disagree about the Niambe penalty call last night. That's fine. He may be right, I may be wrong. Other way round. Fine. As long as we can frame it in a way that's sensible and understands that that borderline decisions are. It feels like the standard is moving, and I want to say getting lower and lower for penalties. And I'm sure someone can produce me some numbers with a quick Google to say that there's way more penalties in the past 2 years than there has ever been before. Have you noticed that since you published your list of which referees, Mr. Langford has been? I hope I'm not responsible in any way. I only get annoyed when very clear penalties are not given. Otherwise, I just say send them given and move on. totally, exactly. I think we need to give referees credit when they're borderline, and you know, when it's Jake Bidwell and George Saville and both of their feet are arriving at the same time, and there's no VAR to help him. I think we need to calm the hell down, don't we? And the slow motion replays don't help, because that's literally not fair on referees, is it? Because the referees literally do not see those decisions. And we see fans and they get more, they come from the position immediately if they want the penalty to be given because of their implicit bias towards their team. So that's their starting point, which is not the same starting point as the referee either. And then they see the 165, 8K, 25 angle slow motion replays, which is great TV, isn't it? So, dearie me. Right. I'm going to calm down, and I'm going to apologise again to Nick if he's still in the chat. Promise. That's been building up for weeks, that, with the Swansea getting those 3 late penalties. And, you know, we had that, to be honest, since the Reading-Sheffield Wednesday game earlier in the season, where there could have been 4 as well. Liam makes a good point there. Social media is another issue. And I think people like me need to accept that social media is just fantasy land. It is absolute fantasy land. And that I should not sit there and read a thread about penalty decisions, because a lot of the comments on there are just massively ridiculous, aren't they? So that's on me. I need to calm down. But I like to think that the standard of people who are in these streams here are talking sense. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully we do get a good standard here. The whole penalty debate is getting silly now. Yeah, I totally agree, Steve. And what we're getting is VAR-like decisions without VAR. It's crazy, isn't it? They have to be guessing, and they have to be looking at what's going on in the Premier League and what's getting given with VAR and saying, oh, well, I think once there's 10 replays, that would probably get given, so I need to give that. Mental. I think the standard of referees has declined, which has hindered the situations like the penalties. We need the ref. The standard of everything has declined, David. The standard of the debate has declined. The standard of refereeing has declined. The standard of understanding generally of the rules has declined. The standard of behaviour of the players then tries to advantageously work all of those declines. So they're now exaggerating things more. Everything has declined. Have a drink, please. I can't have a drink. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but not here. Then the Iain one was borderline. However, ref's view was, well, there we go. And maybe if I get to see 5 VAR things, I'd change my mind. Again, but I can accept some people will think that was and some people that think that wasn't. As long as we're accepting it's borderline, you know, and as long as we're accepting that not every single player who lays a hand. I've got to the point now where if I see someone running in the penalty box and I do the freeze frame for my review shows and the hand is on the shoulder, I've got to the point where I say, oh, well, that's probably a penalty. And it could literally be the same as that there. But if you take the freeze frame at the point where he touches them, you can argue it's a penalty. Why is it up? You can also argue it's a red card because he's not trying to play the ball there. Nick, I'm sorry, honestly. Crying in my dark room for me. Totally agreed, by the way. Yeah. Right. I think I should stop now.